Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Iron Man Annual Issue 1. And I really enjoyed this issue. It actually did a nice job of just doing a kind of annual kind of story for Iron Man, but tying into the larger kind of narrative of what they're trying to do with the Infinity Stones being linked with other people and kind of doing their own kind of sentient thing. And I just really enjoyed this one because it tied together Iron Man and Miles Morales as Spider-Man. And I haven't really seen them interact much, but just even from the small interaction, well, it's not small, they team up for a little bit, and then Miles kind of gives them information to go on for another kind of story bit. But I really enjoyed their kind of interaction and Tony trying to impart his own kind of wisdom to him as he deals with kind of a new threat. So, interestingly enough, this opens and we see a lot of Moloids kind of like racking about the place and not really destroying shit, but kind of going spring breaky SantaCon wild in New York. Like, woo, Seinfeld and shit, the Friends and all that. It's like, the fuck's going on? Iron Man and, of course, Miles are like, what's going on? This is kind of weird. Where's the Mole Man and everything? And they're able to kind of like calm one of them down a little bit to be like, we don't have our like great invasion kind of thing, and they just kind of wanted to be tourists and like walk around New York and shit like that. So Tony, of course, is calling them back up, and Miles is like, what are you doing, man? He's like, don't worry, I've got this. Get some food trucks, get some buses, and he hooks them up. I'm like, there you go. That's an effective way to kind of deal with this strange ass situation and just be kind of good. So him and Miles then go off to kind of eat, and he just pretty much tries to get a handle of what's going on with Miles. And of course, he tells him about his time with the Assessor, and it's this new kind of tech dude. Miles didn't know if they knew about him. He's like, nah, if he's new, we don't got that. I don't have that much stuff. And he's like, well, he's this tech dude, so I thought you, of all people, would know him. And of course, Tony kind of gives him the lowdown of like, yeah, there's certain purviews. Thor's got the mystical stuff. Cap's got the Americana. Tech's my jam. And Miles was kidnapped by the Assessor and done horrible tests on to understand the lengths of his power, but fortunately enough, his dad and his uncle Aaron were able to get him out. And Tony's like, yeah, give me all the info you got. I got this. And of course, he's like, hey, your uncle keeping clean and everything. He's like, I ain't no snitch. And it's just kind of cool to see them just have that kind of camaraderie and kind of like, they're both heroes, they both acknowledge it, they both respect each other about what's going on, and having nice kind of character interactions. I would really, after seeing this and what is going on with the main kind of Iron Man comic, I kind of would have liked Tony to kind of like reach out to Miles to kind of get some information from him, but understand why he would go with the Scarlet Spider over him, mainly for experience and definitely dealing with like a quarterback level Avengers threat. So Tony then goes and we see him narrating what's going on, and he's pissed off. I really like the handle that this creative team's got on Iron Man. Not that I hate what's going on in the normal Iron Man comic. I love what's going on there. But here it's just, it's a different kind of take, and I'm like, I would definitely like this kind of creative team to work on it again, because I love how they like, whenever you're doing Iron Man, an important part of like the artist team is showing off Iron Man's armor and the amazing shit it can do, and they're able to do that here, and I'm like, yes. The other one is getting the writing right, and it was really kind of cool to see getting his dander up as he talked about how he's pissed off with the situation, because Tony and Miles now have a kind of shared experience of being kidnapped and everything. Tony is more pissed off because he was a man, he was an adult, and he knew what, he had that itch on his scalp of like that bullet that could come from him at any point. And Miles was a kid. That does not fly with Tony Stark on this. And seeing him pretty much go warpath on these people and be, in his terms, a kind of human cruise missile, he goes after him. Because he went to New York Impound and was able to find their drones and was able to figure out where the Assessor was going to be. And he kind of like goes through, he knows that the Assessor isn't going to bug out on the first sign of something like this. He'd want to do his duty and assess what's going on with Iron Man. Having an Avenger to be able to assess and figure out what's kind of going on with him, that's too big of a thing to pass up. So he's going through pretty much taking these guys out like ain't nobody's business, and then he starts getting into, and we see someone who's able to teleport around. And it's never explicitly stated, but we understand that this dude has the Space Stone, where he's able to pretty much teleport his fist into Tony's helmet and punch his ass. And of course, that's when he loses the momentum, and as he's talking about when you lose your momentum like that, that's when they pretty much put up a statue of you in the back of the Avengers Mansion, because this dude, Quantum, is able to teleport him to where the Assessor is, and they start to try and put him through all these kind of tests. So then we see him doing all these things, pretty much figuring out how to get to the Assessor the way that he needs to, going through like this wind tunnel, doing all this different kind of stuff, and he lets these kind of like little kind of bugs out through to kind of go throughout their business, because we'd also seen him using some kind of drones to figure out the tactical situation of the building that he thought the Assessor would be in. So he was able to kind of get through everything, and he's pretty much in the part where the Assessor's at, that we know of, and he then starts fighting with Quantum, but the thing is, he was able to pretty much pair up his stuff and is able to take Quantum down pretty effectively. They were paired for like 180 seconds, and then he gets up to the Assessor, and we find out that it's an AI. And he has utilized his little drone guys to, of course, viral strike and pretty much lock his ass into this one body because he was trying to bug out. Because the weakness is, as an AI like that, sure, they could have off-site and be able to observe stuff, but usually when you're handling this kind of data, you want all of it, and the way to get it like that is to be hardwired in that kind of body that he's got. And that's how Tony was able to utilize that kind of weakness to his advantage, as he was able to lock him in and says, now you're downloading into my system so I can deal with your ass, bitch. And granted, paraphrasing there, but that's the kind of thing you get from start. And we see that the Quantum dude had escaped, and that they're trying to have data recovery from the other Assessor, and that their contract is not voided out yet, and that this dude wants the power source removed from him, as we see that the power source really is kind of fucking with him, and that this dude isn't really like a willing participant of this. So we'll kind of have to see how that kind of works out, because we didn't really get much information on him, because we see how the stone is incorporated into his body, and it's really fucking freaky. And I hope we kind of get some more with him, because it's an interesting kind of character, and it's interesting to see this kind of different evolution of this next thing of the like Infinity Stones, and seeing them kind of have a will of their own, possibly being linked into people and having them kind of protect those powers, and what it would mean if all of these different people got together and decided to utilize their powers in concert for any kind of one thing. So I like the groundwork that this is placing, and it would be interesting to see what they kind of do with it if they try and move it into the MCU, and what that would kind of accomplish if they got at that point. Now, granted, I know that this is new, but the MCU builds itself out a lot, and I would say we need at least, I mean, we'd probably get through another saga before we got to something like this, potentially, at least for breathing room to get away from like Infinity Stones for a little bit, because there's a vast amount of other things that we could get to. How we could do Beyonders, we could do Galactus kind of entity level things. I mean, hell, we're bringing in the Eternals with the Celestials. But this has a nice, interesting kind of spin on the Infinity Stones that I really kind of want to see what they kind of do with. So that's where the main annual ends. Then we get a little bit of Nick Fury Jr. pretty much narrating and talking about that there's another player working around, and that he's interested to, like, wants to know what's going on with that, because he sees a lot of this stuff. Also talking about how he's more been more shaped by his mother, and that he mainly got the name Nick Fury from his father, but that he learned a lot of stuff from his mother, and like, that's kind of cool, and I like kind of differentiating like that. Because then we have him doing his stuff, and of course we have Fury paired off with Uatu and dealing with their kind of stuff. So we'll kind of have to see kind of how that all works out. So I liked how this issue did a very kind of interesting story of really bringing together two kind of characters, and then just kind of like having Tony do his Iron Man thing and do it well. He got his lumps taken, but he also kicked some ass and everything. So I really enjoyed this, and I definitely would recommend this to you if you're an Iron Man fan. Yeah. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.